What is opera? Sing.
One of my predecessors, Roger Pines, just loved puppets. He remembered puppet programs, puppet shows when he was growing up. And about 11 years ago, when he was here as education director, he thought that might be a wonderful way of delivering the basic terminology of opera to kids K through 3. The very first puppet production was called The Dragon Who Stole Opera, and it was essentially a pastiche of famous arias and ensembles in opera delivered by puppets, which had moving mouths, you know, it was sort of along the lines of the Muppet style of puppet. And it lasted about 5 years, and then we approached Edward Barnes and puppet master Lynn Jennings to create Papagayo, which also had a 5 or 6 year history with the company. So this is a brand new production, Animalopera, by Myron Fink and Don Moreland. It continues the same tradition of using puppets to deliver some basic information about opera, but delivers it in a different way than the other two productions.
My voice is the brightest star, and mine is the warmest heart. My voice is the
your dressing rooms, check your costumes, save your voices, I command you.
You only have a half hour with this kind of a piece, of this being done for a very young school audience, kindergarten through 3rd grade, and half hour is about the limits of their tolerance. I guess the attention span has gradually shrunk over the past 2 years, but it means that you have to make your points clearly. It means you have to make them simply. It means the subject matter has to be suitable for that age group, therefore not of the kind of sophistication that you would have with the audience in a grand opera performance or any operatic performance.
Why not? I told you before, you are just mice, little mice. We have learned all the rules, listening all these years. Please, Morris, give us a chance.
You have a kind of the logic of illogic with puppets, that you don't have to worry about transitions. You can easily leap from one thought or one action to another. And so I found that while the necessary condensation was necessary, I could create many different brief sequences, all which have a different character, a different mood, not only the characters themselves, but also the actions that take place. So in a sense it was inhibiting, but in the other sense it was liberating.
The Animalopera by Myron Fink is a pure fancy, and it's great fun. We have 4 singers, 4 opera singers: Fifi, Hagen, the bass or the baritone, Alicia, the mezzo, and Roberto, the tenor, who are about to present this opera under the tutelage and watchful eye of the impresario Boris. And when it's discovered, or when they discover they can't go on with the piece because they have goals, all of them, the stagehands who've been observing very closely all this time and moving the scenery but learning the piece quite by accident, the stagehands who happen to be little mice, take over the piece. The music is delightful, it's accessible, it's not talking down to an audience or playing down to an audience, but it's something that should really pique the imaginations of the youngsters who will be hearing it.
It has long been Karen's and Ian Campbell's idea to use members of the San Diego Youth Symphony, to have some kind of linkage between them and the opera company. And I think that's marvelous because, you know, we do have to think about future audience and future performers. And so I was delighted when the idea of using them as the instrumentalists was first sounded. And it's worked out marvelously. They're wonderful performers, and again, they have an attitude. They're willing to learn. They are. You don't get this sometimes. Professionals have a kind of jaded air about them. You know, it's another job. Whereas for them, it's a learning experience, and to see their enthusiasm has been marvelous.
We rarely achieve the levels to which we're capable of achieving unless we're really pressed to do so, and then we surprise ourselves amazingly. So no, I'm demanding the same kind of level of playing from these musicians as I would from any musician playing the show, and it's great fun to watch them manifest and execute it.
What a joy to share.
On the vocal side of things, we have some of our former and present opera ensemble members singing the parts of the characters in this animal opera of Myron Fink's.
Neither Don nor I have been aware or wanted any kind of diminishment of expectations at all. We would have the same expectations for this half hour as if one were dealing with a 3-hour performance on the main stage.
Yeah, it's like a big production, only small, because you have all the elements of a conductor, composer, librettist, pianists, the musicians, the singers, the set designer, the costume designers, the puppet makers. So it's everything just simply condensed.
Okay, boom, ba, 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 ba. Okay, end of song now. Boinka boin. When I retired, I vowed to do new things that I've never done before. I don't want to be a rocking chair retiree. And when I read the script of Animal Opera, I said, whoa, this is kind of interesting. Can we pull it off? And you always look at it, I always look at a creative project to challenge, can we make it work, or is it going to defeat us? It's a mini war and revolution always going on. And with this one, when it's original material, original music, original puppets, the challenge is immense. Training 2 troupes of puppeteers who some have worked for 10 years with the companies, some it's the first time they've ever had a puppet on their hand, and then you have the intermediary. So you're working with volunteers, and you have to work within their schedule and within their physical abilities, and still come off with a show that the San Diego Opera can be proud of. And that's a real challenge because, as you know, and this is a plug, San Diego Opera really does some good stuff. And so that's been my goal, is to come up to the expectations I have from my perception of what they do. God, I got so excited my hearing aids are... bringing. I think what I like about the volunteers is they're willing to give back. You know, more and more in the colleges and high schools, we're asking for service awards, service classes, where you pay the community back for helping you get an education or from whatever it's done for you, a la Peace Corps. And I think they're giving back, and they believe in the concept of opera. Amazing people, really amazing, willing to give. I like that.
We've not really reached out to retirement homes or retirement organizations. I think we've just put the word out, word of mouth, amongst teachers particularly, docents who have been active with us in the past, volunteer ushers who have been active in the past with our student dress rehearsal program, people who in some way have been involved with the opera, and I know are retired and are looking for something to do or have an intense interest in children's programs. Those are the people that we go after. Those are the people that we ask.
I was at a concert and sitting with Nick Ravellis, and I said, Nick, I would love to volunteer to do what I can to promote opera in the schools. And he says, I have just the spot for you. And he told me about the puppet theater, and it was just before it was starting on this new animal opera. So I said, I'll take it. And then, of course, he said, well, there's Alicia Felicia Fandango, and she is a mezzo-soprano diva cat. I said, that's me.
The rest I save for later.
My biggest challenge has been handling the puppet and learning how to make her do the things that I would do if I were out there doing Alicia. You know, get the movements the way I want them. She's very graceful and lovely, isn't she? The other challenge has been not to spend time looking out at the audience like this, but remembering to project what I'm feeling through Alicia, because she is the star.
I am Hagen von Pragen an der Brücke. I sing the villains.
I have been a usher at the dress rehearsals for the students in the opera for probably about 15 years. And I had just put myself on the reserve list for that, and then when I saw that the puppets needed people last year, I thought, oh, that would be interesting. I think I'd like to do that. So I just called up and came down and started doing the puppet show, Papagayo, last year.
Watch out, watch out, watch out. You Brecke, I mean Brecke, that is Brücke, Brecke.
I just like bringing this character to life. I enjoy it, and I enjoy the children, and I enjoy the looks on their faces, and I play to that. I try to. And that's, as a puppeteer, you are free to kind of express yourself so that the children react. And that to me is really important. I mean, I feel that if you haven't caused a reaction from the children, then maybe you haven't done your job the way you should be doing it.
I am Fifi le Grande, Fifi le Grande. Everyone adores me. I adore myself.
Fifi is a soprano in the animal opera. And she is probably the star of the show. At least she thinks she is. And she gets very upset with the other stars of the show because she has the lead. And so she lets them know by sticking her nose up in the air when she's upset with something. And unfortunately, she was the cause for all of the stars to catch a cold, and the mice had to take over the parts. So she's a little unhappy about the fact that she was the cause.
Thank you, Fifi.
It allows me to bring out my childish side without being laughed at, and also I enjoy having the opportunity to see the smiles on the children's faces in the performance, and that really, to me, is why I do it.
What a joy to share.
These two fellows are actually one and the same, Act 1 and Act 2. This is Papa Mouse, and during the first part of the play, Papa Mouse is a worker bee for the opera company, and sweeps the floors, opens the curtains, moves the sets, moves the flats, and of course when the divas all come down with laryngitis or a cold, the mice have to fill in, and so the other adaptation of Papa Mouse is in his Romeo and Juliet. Actually, he's Juliet's father, so that's why he's dressed up more in the Elizabethan type costume. So I have to switch in the middle of the play the one puppet, the worker bee puppet, to the Romeo and Juliet puppet.
But I am her father, I forbid her to marry him. She must marry a prince.
As I am his mother, I forbid him to marry her. She is not good enough.
Not good enough. Not good enough.
Not good enough.
She isn't.
I think the most challenging part of this so far has been that I'm on stage 2, and while I'm not there physically, I'm there physically, but I'm not there as the character, but I have to remember that the children or the audience can see me as well, and so if I'm smiling and laughing when I'm doing a sad scene or when they're excited or scared, I have to be the character of the mouse, even though the mouse is out there in front of me, and I can hide a little bit behind him, but not completely.
I will expect you to be superb. I've watched some of these people starting out like, oh, puppet, and then pretty soon their bodies are up and they're smiling and they're talking. One woman was so excited to see her puppet today she kissed it. You know, I thought, oh, well, that might be going a wee bit far, but still there's an affection there. This is my puppet, and it takes life of its own when it goes on your hand. And it's where you put all your energy, you put your whole focus in what you're doing.
Our show has a director, and his name is Boris, and he's asked me to ask all of you to help him out during the show. At times, he's going to make a gesture like this. When he does that, he's going to want you to do something. It might be to applaud or to answer a question. So it's very important that you listen so you can figure out what he wants you to do. So now, without further ado, the San Diego Opera's Education and Outreach Program is very proud to present Animalopera. Enjoy the show, everybody. My role with the San Diego Opera's Puppet Theater is the tour manager. And in essence, it is going to the schools, setting up the show, taking down the show, taking to the set afterwards, making sure all the puppeteers know where to be and what time they need to be at the schools, and making sure they have all the paperwork with the directions, maps, addresses, phone numbers, etc. And also within that category comes upkeep and repair of both the sets and the puppets. If this was a classical theatrical show, I would be the stage manager, the production manager, the technical director, sound designer, carpenter, stagehand, multiple titles, all rolled up into one. We tour April and the first 3 weeks of May. And in that time, we'll do about 60 performances at probably 50 different schools. We will reach anywhere between 20 and 30,000 children over the course of the 2-month tour. Without the volunteer participation that we have, this puppet tour could not happen. We have 16 roughly, volunteers that give endless hours of their time to make this show happen. They're driving all over San Diego, from Valley Center down to Otay Mesa, giving 2 days a week, 8 hours a day, basically, of their lives to be able to do this show. And a lot of them are retired teachers, and they generally love this show. But everybody who's involved in the puppet program loves the puppet program, and they see it as their show.
Keep it crisp.
All right.
Make sure these characters are wonderful, and just bring these kids alive, and they reflect and have fun with his neck.
I love the interaction with the audience because I'm a former teacher. And I feel that this is important because so much of the educational day is on academics. The children are not getting the arts and music program that we used to have. And it's important for them to know that there is such a thing as opera. And so anything I can do to bring it alive to the audience, I love to do. And with Boris, I get to go out to the audience and talk to them, encourage them to respond in certain parts so they are a part of the action. When I do this applause, the really neat things is that we encourage the boys and girls to write letters or to draw pictures, and they send it to the opera office. The people at the opera office, Angela gathers all these things together and brings them to us, the puppeteers, this is all of the money that we could ever expect for, all of the pay is hearing what the children like and how it has enriched their lives.
It's nice for the children to be able to see members of the community volunteering their time in something that's educational and enjoyable for the children. We stress that a lot, as do the other schools too. Community involvement, community participation. So when we have seniors here, or people who are retired, people that look like their grandparents, coming and participating, the kids really enjoy that because they see, they can relate to their grandparents as well. And they see a place for themselves when they're older. You don't have to be young, middle-aged, or old. You can be any of the above to participate in worthwhile community endeavors.
Of the 3 productions that the puppet troupe has done and that San Diego Opera has commissioned, this is certainly and by far the largest. The production came in total at about $80,000. It was completely funded by the Maxwell H. Gluck Foundation. We had instrumentalists involved in the recording, professional singers involved in the recording. We had Icarus Puppet Company, the premier puppet company of San Diego, build the puppets. The production just glistens, and I think it really does attract the kids' attention, which is exactly what we wanted to do. Set design, painting, visual arts, various forms of physical design and visual design, and music, as well as accompaniment, instrumental playing, and all of those things, plus singing, of course, are involved in opera. And if we can do that through puppets that are immediately attractive to children, and that immediately get their attention and are colorful and active and interesting, I think it's just a better way of providing that information. It's not only a more accessible way of providing that information, but a more powerful way of providing the information that involvement in the arts, that participation in the arts, that being an audience member for a particular art form is powerful. It affects your life. It makes your life better. I think the puppeteers, our seniors who are involved in delivering the product, delivering the program, realize that themselves, that the more they're involved in rehearsing this, making it better, honing their skills as puppeteers, the more enriched their lives become.
Tonight we open with Romeo and Juliet, a story of love.
I like dogs, and so I like the poodle because I like dogs. I like the father mouse. I liked the rooster.
You like the rooster? Why did you like the rooster?
Because when he was singing, his neck went up.
I liked the mice. They were too cool.
I liked how they sing and how they act. They sing all the time, and it sort of is different. It was really exciting music and taught you a lot of things. There was another use for speaking, so you don't have to always talk. You can always use music to describe things.
Ha ha, you see why I love them. They are my artists.